Yes, people, we are back again for another show with you guys. It's been a busy week and lots of content plugging out. Now, usually we do this on Lee Judges TV, but tonight it's on my channel. Big up, Lee Judges. How are you, bro?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you very much. All good. All good.
Good, man. Of course, we can't bring you on without bringing two of our amazing Tottenham guests on. I say amazing very, very quickly. Henry and Sean. Henry, how are you, bruv?
I'm good, mate. We're top of the league. And not just that, our under-18s are top of the league. Our under-21s are top of the league. So it's all good, mate, over here. It's all good.
Big up, man. Big up. Sean, you were obviously with us last night. Welcome back to the channel, my friend. It was good to talk a little bit of Spurs last night and get your thoughts again with Henry's and, of course, Lee's. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, last night I felt like I played down Tottenham's chances, but I've just noticed the title of the video, so I feel like I might have to be a little bit more shameless with my comments tonight if we're comparing certain people.
Yeah, well, I thought we'd do that. Nah, man, you're always welcome, both of you. You know you are. I thought we'd do that because international break, not much else to talk about in terms of the games. We've had all of our say on where Arsenal and Tottenham are, and I think we need to talk about the managers. Because I said last night, and quite a lot of other people talked about Postecoglou. A lot of people have had their say about Mikel Arteta and where he's at in terms of the 4 seasons now. It's actually 5 seasons, but 4 and a bit seasons as to what Arsenal need to do. And I think the expectations of Tottenham are kind of changed from what people were first saying about you. So I think it would be good to have a bit of a chat. But let me come to Judges, because I've not actually spoken to him actually about this, and I'm interested to get your point, Lee. Tottenham's season, before a ball was kicked, I asked the question last night, where were Tottenham expected to get? And a lot of people said 8th, 9th, 10th. Some of them said, without Harry Kane, they'll get 11th or 12th. And I think 8 games in, a lot of people are now predicting them to finish a lot higher. What have you made of it all, Judges?
I never predicted them to come really that low. I actually thought they'd do all right this season, and with the no Europe thing, I think that was a good thing. But I think what they've done, Tottenham, and of course, Levy gets a lot of stick. They've done the right thing. They got a manager that wanted to be there, and I think that was the key to it all. Like not some manager that's just like, oh, you should be grateful that I'm here. A manager that wanted to be successful at Spurs, wanted to take the Spurs job, really wanted to give it all he's got. And also not worried if there was going to be a budget or not. Now, obviously, there's going to be some sort of budget, but it weren't going to be like over the top and put Tottenham into a position that they weren't prepared to go in. So straight away, you're not going to get the arguments from the board level, from the manager and everything like that. And then what he done is, and this is where I think he's very, very clever, is he sat there and he's thought, right, what do I do? If I give it a good go and to put up entertaining football, make this team entertaining, I'm on a winning streak to start off with. You know what I mean? Obviously, like there'll be pressure if the results don't come, but at first, it's like let's just see if we can go with that. Let's try and get the feel good factor back into the club, and go from there. And that's exactly what he's done. He's played an entertaining brand of football, which has got the fans on side. Most of my Spurs mates are going, look, if we lose to Man United, as long as we give it a go, see how it goes from there. All of a sudden, like, we can get a result here, we can get a result there. Oh, we can get something at the Emirates now, like, you know what I mean, by playing this way, like, and we're going to go there and play. If it don't work, it don't work. Everything that they've done so far has worked. So you have to give the manager very, very much credit for that, like, And also, which is a little bit of a worry, is I see a different side of Spurs on the weekend. Down to 10 men. I didn't actually watch the games, listening on the radio, and I know that they should have been winning at that stage. And then, like, then you think, right, well, I don't know, they could slip up here, like, you know what I mean? This could be where one of the old wheels comes off, and this would be a good thing. But they didn't, I think even a draw would have been a poor result before a kick was kicked. But to go down to 10 men and get a 1-0 win away from home in the Premier League, you have to give credit to that, like, And all of a sudden, I've got all my Spurs mates when I was playing football Saturday going, they're going to win the league and all that, like, and giving it their little large. And one of them turned around to me, and which is really funny. I'm going to give him a shout out, old Dean. He's a horrible Tottenham fan, really. turned around and says, "And that's what champions do." And I went, "Well, how do you know?" You know what I mean? So we have a little bit of banter and all that. But that is what, that they are doing things. I know you might find it silly. They're sort of doing what we was doing at the beginning of last season. You're sort of getting a few good wins, and all of a sudden you rattle off another win and another win, and all of a sudden, and I tell you what was a key weekend for Spurs this weekend, and I was looking at it. All the teams below them sort of playing each other or whatever, you know what I mean? There was Arsenal, Man City playing each other, Newcastle and West Ham, all the teams in and around that.
Brighton, Liverpool as well.
Brighton, Liverpool, all the ones that want to get into Europe and chasing for top 4 or top 5 or whatever it is. A lot of them were playing each other. If Tottenham would have dropped points against Luton, that would have been a massive thing. But they didn't, and that means that maybe the gap hasn't been from Arsenal or Man City, but that the teams below that just starting to open up a 4 or 5 point gap. And all of a sudden, when you go to play these teams now, which will happen in the next few weeks or whatever, like the Brightons and the West Hams and whatever, if you're 5 points, you beat them, you're 8 points. All of a sudden, it's a big thing, So listen, fair play to them at the moment. And I do think, Dan, for us Arsenal players, when we get our fans, when we get back and the players and all that, we play Saturday, we play Chelsea, we play Tuesday, we were in Seville, and then we play Saturday again. You know what I mean? Tottenham have 2 games in that period, 7 days, So when you think about it, rest, play, relax, train, Arsenal not got that, you know what I mean? And a lot of the teams in and around Tottenham haven't got that. Even Brighton, I think, are suffering a little bit through playing too many games. So I do think that if they play their cards right, Spurs, and defend properly, do this and do that, with that 1 game a week in their locker, I think that gives them an advantage.
Yeah. Listen, before we come into Ange from you two, I want to mention Daniel Levy because I mentioned it last night on the channel with Sean, and I didn't really know Sean's opinions on it until he spoke of it. And Sean's not really one that hates Daniel Levy, but Henry, I know you've been frustrated by it. And I've always said that I felt like Daniel Levy has done good things at Tottenham, but I kind of feel like there's been the what next, and that's not been answered. So there's always been, I've got you to this point. I don't really want to do much more to get you to that point. I'm quite happy if you just get top 4, get me a load of money, and then we'll go from there. But having said that, you all hated him not long ago. Get the hell the club, Enoch out, Levy out. They're all a disgrace. I'm not hearing that anymore. And I think we've been here before, Henry, a few times. When Mourinho was top of the league, everyone was loving on Levy. Or not loving on him, but they were quiet about him. Conte likewise, because, I know it's been better football, but points-wise, it's not like, wow, compared to Conte, Ange Postecoglou is 15 points better off. He ain't. It's quite similar to where you were last year in terms of points and where you were. But Daniel Levy's not getting hated on at the moment.
But one injury and that all changes. If we get an injury to Van der Ven tomorrow,
that's the thing.
It will be, why didn't we bring another centre back in? If we get an injury to Heung-min Son, it will be, why didn't we get a striker in? Look, me and Sean throughout the transfer window.
Me think, I've done it again here. That's all I'm thinking. I've done it again here. I've kept them all quiet.
Yeah, there's an element of that. I mean, as a football fan, you want to go down to your team and watch your team play great football. I mean, you boys have watched Arsenal play fantastic football for year after year. It doesn't matter what manager it was. Even Unai Emery, you were banging the goals in.
You couldn't not mention him, could you? You couldn't not mention Emery. It took you, 9 minutes
so
in?
Disrespected. It is unreal. And look, we've got to do a video about Unai Emery because he's just absolutely mustard. But in terms of Tottenham, I think me, Sean, and a lot of the fan base wanted to see a kind of plan put in. And now we've brought in a director of football who starts in November, who's got a track record for signing, a lot of good players at Villa, like Diaby, Watkins, Leon Bailey, Zaniolo, Pau Torres, Martinez. The list goes on and on. Now we've got that. We've got a manager that wants to play attacking football. We've got young players like Udogie and Van der Ven and Sasa Toure and players like that coming in. Now it kind of takes a little bit of the heat off of Levy. But don't get it. None of this change. If we win a trophy this year, it doesn't you don't forget about what's happened the last kind of 10 years where we've been this close and a couple more players gets us over the line. One thing I'll say on Postecoglou, though, and I think Sean probably agree with this, he's trying to change the culture of the football club. You know, how many times have we gone down to these away grounds when we've been on great form and it just the result hasn't gone our way? Like a couple of years ago, we beat Man City. It had the following week we lose 1-0 to Burnley. And when Basuma went off, I thought, nah, this has got a 1-0 Burnley written all over it here. We're going to end up losing. And like Judge said, everyone's playing each other. There's a little bit of pressure on us to a degree because we're going in expected to beat Burnley, and a lot of our fan base thought we were going to blow them away. A lot of our fan, 3-4-0 like we did against, Bournemouth and Burnley, and we got the result done. We showed character.
I mean, Luton.
Luton, yeah. But like we did against Burnley, we absolutely smashed them to bits. We should have been 7-8 goals up in the first 60 minutes. I thought we were going to do that. We obviously get a man sent off, and we get the goal and just manage the game out. But I think Postecoglou's the right man for us. I think he's exactly what we need to move us forward. He seems like a top bloke as well. His man management, I haven't seen a single rival fan or player come out and say anything bad about him, whereas you knew what you were getting with Conte. You knew he was this ruthless, person where he would throw you under the bus if he didn't go to plan. Same as Jose. Nuno, he come in and it was like, well, this is just a stopgap for him. And now he's gone to Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I think right now it's the right thing to do. And yes, there's a bit of heat off of Levy, mate. That's my opinion on it.
Fair play, man. Before I come to Sean, congratulations to Bradley Martin, regular listener. Says, big up, Dan. My wife and I brought another gooner into the world a couple of days ago. Congratulations, my friend. I wish you all very well and hope mother and baby are doing very, very well. Big up, Brad. Sean, let's come to you, my friend. We spoke last night a little bit about Levy and Postecoglou, and I think it's important for us to all know where you're at, because I think Daniel Levy's done a lot of good. Lee Judge has gone on about this quite a lot and has wound up a lot of Tottenham fans about how
he has. Yeah, mentioned that.
I think it went viral, that clip, to be fair, about how Tottenham should be grateful about what Daniel Levy's done, and they haven't ever done anything basically of relevance until Daniel Levy come into town. So I want you to talk on Daniel Levy and the new manager and the appointment, to be fair, Sean.
Yeah, so I touched on it last night. I don't subscribe to this Levy out notion at all. Since I've been in the kind of content community, I spent so much of my time debating with people in the Tottenham space that are vehement Levy out. Just for a bit of context, so I come from a world of finance and business, and I've done a lot of work within football finance as well as part of that gig. So I kind of, a lot of the time I spend breaking down the finances of Tottenham and going through the rationale as to why we do what we do. And when I hear arguments about, are we not a football club anymore, we're a sports entertainment complex, I try to kind of give light or shed light onto why that's important and why that's relevant and why it shouldn't be seen as a stick to hit people with. So I'm kind of known in the Tottenham area of the online space as being someone that does defend him, but not, I'm not going to sit there and say that he's perfect. He's far from perfect. And I agree with people when they say that we haven't, when we've almost been there, we've got to the kind of pinnacle, we haven't quite kicked on, but there's always a lot of context that you have to bake in. When Tottenham got to the Champions League final and were 2 or 3 big signings away from kicking on, we were also just moving into a new stadium that came with 800 million quid of debt. And, it wasn't easy. I often am touted as saying, and people hate me for saying it in the Tottenham space, but I think getting to the Champions League final was potentially the worst thing that could have happened to Tottenham in that progress. So I know from running businesses that there's only 2 things that can really destabilize a business. One is not growing fast enough, and the other thing is growing too fast. And I think Tottenham grew too fast, too soon with regards to the Champions League final. It reset expectations at the very same time we got into the new stadium, and the money wasn't there. That you can make the argument that other owners put their hand in their pocket more than ours have, and it's a fine argument to make. But I personally come from a stable that suggests that a club should be self-sustainable. Any business should. If you live a credit card lifestyle as an individual, if a charity does it, if a government does it, and if a business does it, if you're running on debt, then it's not. You're running on fumes most of the time. And I don't think that it's the right way to go about it. So I don't personally have any problem with Daniel Levy, apart from I think sometimes he gets involved in footballing decisions that he doesn't necessarily have the expertise to overrule other people on. He takes the cheaper option. I'm certainly not sitting here saying that he's perfect. He's far from perfect. He's made lots of mistakes. But where I do get frustrated with Tottenham fans is when they have inconsistencies in their argument. Whenever something goes wrong, it's the fault of the owner. Whenever something goes right, the credit isn't given in the same place as the criticism is. And that to me is something that frustrates me. If you want to have a balanced debate about someone, then you have to at least, if you're going to say the buck stops at the top, therefore everything is ultimately his responsibility, then the reasons why we got to the Champions League final are also on him. The reasons why we are currently doing so well. Like, where's the credit for Daniel Levy for appointing Postecoglou? There isn't any, but everyone's happy with Postecoglou and loving Ange ball. But the second that we get an injury, it will be Daniel Levy didn't back the team. And it's just, for me, inconsistencies in the narrative that kind of irritate me. Look, I think the question marks will come again in January. I think that Daniel Levy's made it abundantly clear. I don't think, for what it's worth, when you guys were saying, has he played a blinder here, in as much as the narrative is, I'll keep the Tottenham fans off my back by providing them with a manager that plays good football. I don't think that Daniel Levy feels like he's done a bad job. I feel like in his mind and in the mind of the board, I think they will look, and most people will always reflect on their own efforts with a glass half full approach. That's just human nature. I think that he looks at his decision making and, would say he's made some mistakes. He's starting to acknowledge some mistakes, but ultimately I think that he reflects on his time at Tottenham, as do I, as taking us from a team that were, also rans. And, when we were big time, when we were a team that were doing a lot of our business, that was a long time ago, 30, 40 years ago. Most Tottenham fans don't remember that era and will reflect on that era and say, well, why isn't it happening now? And I think that a lot of Tottenham fans don't reflect on the other variables that are happening within football that affect Tottenham's chances of winning titles, which is, money in football, I think, is the biggest determinant.
Sean, do you not think at times he could have put or, improved our kind of scouting network or our academy? Because you look at Arsenal, I've had the likes of Nketiah, or not, I didn't Nketiah come out of Chelsea's academy. Well, let's say Saka and Smith Rowe in the last, 5-6 years. Other than Kane, in the last, since Ledley King, we've had Winks, Skip, and Kane in 15 years.
Yeah.
I think,
that certainly goes into the con column. If you're making a list of things that you want to criticize him for and praise him for, then there's a long list of things that you want to criticize him for, but there's also a long list of things where credit should be due. And I just, for me, the debate comes down to how people feel about Daniel Levy, and I think that the Levy out movement focus on the negatives far more than they do the positives, and it becomes a bit of a kind of a cultish kind of movement where you're looking for positivity bias to support your rationale, and in so doing, there's no balance in the narrative. If you want to be fair and reasonable, I think that most people should say there's loads of things that he's done very well. He's taken us to a position where we're part of a conversation. Obviously, since the Champions League, the last 5 years have been a disappointment. We've definitely regressed. We definitely have. But like I say, again, I just don't think enough attention is paid to things that are happening outside of Tottenham Hotspur. People look into it with like a unipolar lens and go, everything that Tottenham can do is decided by Tottenham. And I just don't think that that's the case. I think you have to recognize what's happening with, money from the Middle East coming in and a whole bunch of other variables. There's only a couple of other clubs that you can look at really that have done it organically. Arsenal being one of them. Their success in the Arsene Wenger era did come, generally speaking, through organic growth, and they were just more successful with their decision makings at the top on a higher frequency than the mistakes they made. But I mean, I don't know how much money of your owners given to Arteta in the last 4 years? Quite a lot, right?
He spent 650 million, something like that.
Yeah. So I think that
they haven't made many bad buys either. Like I think you could probably say it's been 6 or 7, maybe 8. But they've done a lot of good buys. Yeah. And they've really gone out. And the thing that you look at the Cronkies and you look at Levy is they identified a man where no matter how crap it went, finishing 8th twice, right? Then finishing 5th, bottling this, bottling that, whatever you want to talk about, they have backed him and said, you're our guy. And they've done everything they can to support him. The only thing you could on Sound Levy, whenever it doesn't go to plan and those results do fall down the table, the manager gets the bullet. We finished other than
Conte was sacked himself pretty much, didn't he? He just walked out.
Yeah, but look at Jose. It got to the point where things didn't go right and we needed investment. Like Arteta, I think other than I think every player from the first game he played has gone now.
Yeah,
Tierney's just gone. Xhaka's gone. They got an entire new.
I think that's the same thing with Tottenham, mate. I mean, Tottenham's squad.
No, we've still got Lloris here, still got Davies here, still got.
Okay,
Dyer
but they're not really here. They're here under duress rather than anything else. But with Tottenham have transferred. We've got a huge turnover. All I'm saying is that look, I'm happy for people to land on a negative slant on Levy, and I understand why. But I just don't like it when it's this unipolar blame game where everything that's right about the club is allocated to the area of the football team that is currently doing well. Like our youth team is now doing bits, and all that credit goes to, I don't know, like a Gabonini, the guy who's just recently left the club, or the youth coach. Everything that's going well on the pitch in the first team is now Postecoglou, but everything that's wrong and has been wrong and will be wrong in the future, the blame gets put up the top. All I look for is consistency in an argument, and then I'm happy for people to land on wherever they want to land on it.
Like when we lost to Sheffield United, everyone just quickly then. When we lost to Sheffield United, everyone was blaming Levy, not Conte, the team that left the likes of Kane, Kulusevski, and Romero on the bench.
Yeah,
and we haven't won an FA Cup 5th round in 10 years.
That was a disgrace.
Blame that on Levy.
No, that was a disgrace from Conte. That was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's like, surely this guy's got to win a trophy this year, and he's playing by B team players against Sheffield United. It's
absolutely pammed 4-1 by Leicester. You can't blame that on Levy.
Nah, there was problems other than Daniel Levy. Before we move, judges, I want you to answer the question in relation to these Tottenham fans that are getting a bit annoyed with you, because I understood what you were meaning, and I kind of am with you. I do understand why Tottenham fans are frustrated with Daniel Levy, and we never saw in terms of the lack of ambition to try and want to be the best. But I don't know what you want to say on that, because you've been quite adamant about it, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a great conversation what the guys are saying as well. But listen, I've grown up when Spurs were winning cups back in the early 80s and were the better side than Arsenal at that moment in time. But none of them, even when Arsenal won a few cups in the 70s before that, none of them were challenging for the league. None of them challenged for European honours. Tottenham got to a UEFA Cup final and won it. Arsenal won a Cup Winners' Cup a little bit later, but I'm talking about Champions League. I know it's different when you have to win it then to get into the competition, but none of them were challenging for that. Then, I think we've spotted Tottenham before Levy came in. They was down the bottom of the league. I remember, Christian Gross coming in and things like that. And if I'll be really honest, at times, a bit of the laughing stock. Spurs were now. Spurs I think are a big club. I'm never going to argue with that. Are they bigger than Aston Villa? Aston Villa are a massive club.
Don't say that to Sean.
Well, they are. If you ever look at there's a club.
Yeah. Historically, they're a big club. Yeah.
Historically, a big club. Newcastle. They've never won anything. You know what I mean? These teams and all that lot. And Aston Villa get into a Champions League final. I know they won the European Cup back in the day, but it is, if you said to an Aston Villa fan, I expect we're going to get in the Champions League final, and if we do, then the next year we're going to sack our manager. You got to have a reality check. You know what I mean? Spurs got to a European Cup final, champion. I never ever thought I would see that in my day. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. You know what I mean? I had one of the worst summers of my life until June the 1st. 8:05, and then it was all right again. But because the worry was, if Spurs won that, we'd never hear the last of that. If I'll be honest, you know what I mean. And we'd been in it all those years and whatever, So they've done. It was a madness. If I'll be honest, it was a madness. You know what I mean? Whether they rode their luck or not, and ever Then of course they sacked Pochettino because I think probably the success is the undoing of them. You know what I mean? Of Pochettino.
I agree.
What can you do after that? Like of getting to a Champions League, there's not a lot. You can win the league and all that, but as I said before, and I'll say it again, to win the league now is a tremendously difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
With the likes of City and Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, unbelievably have fallen off the scale. Because really, if you think about it, there's no way with all that money that Chelsea has spent, they should have fallen off the scale. So that's left the door open, Levy, I think, could have gone down that route of what Bowley's doing at Chelsea and absolutely bankrupts a club. You know what I mean? Like whatever happens with Tottenham, and I will say this with Spurs. One of the things that, as I say, I admire about them is that they try and do it the right way.
Right, it's organic, right, Judge? It's like exactly. I think that if Tottenham ever do win something big in the next 5-10 years, I think the rival fans will have to take their hat off and say, "Fair play, you didn't buy the success." And I think the same to Arsenal to a degree. I think
you said that about Liverpool. Liverpool won the Premier League.
Liverpool as well. Yeah, I don't think their owners haven't bankrolled it too much. So.
And I'll be really honest with you guys. You know what I mean? I wanted Liverpool to win the league because it's better for football. It's better for, you know what I mean? Like, and also what happens when Liverpool do it? Do you know what? Like, you think to yourself, well, if Liverpool can do it, then Arsenal can do it. And if Arsenal can do it, then Tottenham can do it. And whatever, and it ain't all about chucking the money at it.
100%.
And I think at the end of the day that, listen, Spurs have had some good teams in the past. The Archibald, Crooks, Glenn Hoddle era was fantastic. But they never challenged I think they challenged for the league once when Everton won it, back in about 85, something like that. But in the end, they was well short. I've seen a team now at Tottenham and I thought, wow, I've been impressed with like that Pochettino team, the team that went unbeaten at White Hart Lane the whole season before it went to the Wembley that season. Yeah. We got blown away there. Petr Cech, if it weren't for Petr Cech, it would have been about 5 or 6. Ended up being 2-0, and I've never gone out of White Hart Lane grateful for a 2-0 defeat. You know what I mean? That's under Levy's reign. So that's what I say. Yeah. And at the end of it, no one has, and this is what makes me laugh about Spurs fans, no one, and that's including Arsenal, well, how I feel anyway, has got a God-given right to win a Premier League or a trophy. 100%. I don't think it's
you haven't got the right, but you can show intent. Like I personally feel Levy has taken us. I don't see Levy taking us.
Henry, I'll say that with intent. Is it his fault when you play a semi-final against Chelsea and like Chelsea? I can't think of it. Wasn't a Matic
4-2 Conte that was.
Yeah, smashes in a worldie.
Matic left peg.
Yeah, a worldie from 40, 30 yards. Well, he'd never score again. You know what I mean? Like they've got to finals. I remember them getting to the League Cup final, losing 2-0 to Chelsea. They get to a League Cup final, I think, against Manchester United.
1-0 against City as well.
Lost on penalties against Manchester United. So you're playing League Cup finals. In those League Cup finals, you play Chelsea, Manchester City and Manchester United. You know what I mean? They're a tough ask for anybody to beat. But you've got to those finals. And if you want to say a final and a Champions League final against Liverpool, 4 of the best teams in this country at that time. Very, very difficult to beat. When you won the League Cup the other day, whenever it was against Chelsea. And
Mourinho.
A rich Chelsea. So to win a trophy, even a League Cup, is very, very difficult.
I think, Lee, that is the crucial part of the argument that annoys me with Tottenham fans that don't feel the same, because I think that you and I share the same perspective on this. But there is no concept with those fans of the things that are variables outside of Tottenham. They look through a lens and go, Tottenham are almost there. We should be able to go and do better. But they just don't factor in that the teams you're playing against have got they've got the 12th man, which is their owner, who is pumping in money into the club. And therefore the argument shifts to the only way that like Daniel Levy should be throwing money at Tottenham like Abramovich did to Chelsea, or like, the Abu Dhabi lot are doing to Manchester City or whatever else. And I personally don't subscribe to that. I don't want Tottenham to be the team who has to to go down that path in order to find success. I'd love it if you can do it organically. Then the victory will taste so much sweeter.
I agree, but and this is the other thing, Sean, that you've got Arsenal fans, and I know that Dan's one of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Arteta's got to win something this year, otherwise the pressure's on. Like, you know what I mean? So you've got Manchester City that are serial winners that have won a treble, right? You've got Arsenal expecting to win something, like, you know what I mean? At the end of it, like Liverpool will be expecting to win something with all the money that they've spent. Chelsea will be expecting to win one of those cups with all the money that they've spent because they're not in Europe as well. And then you've got Manchester United are still in that thing. And I'll tell you what, Newcastle as well. So,
yeah. Even West Ham, West Ham have shown they can do it.
West Ham have shown that, you know, a little bit of intent to what they've done, you know. But and look at West Ham. It's 1980 since the last time they won a trophy, like, you know. I mean, they've got a big fan base as well, like, you know. So it's very, very difficult, especially when you've got a team like Manchester City at the moment that probably winning two a season. You know, right? They won a treble last season, but they've won a double. They've won a league and the League Cup and all that. Like, it's very, very difficult. Like, and I'm not in that camp where Arsenal have got to win something. What I am as an Arsenal fan is, when I first started supporting Arsenal, I'm going to be really honest, guys. I never thought Arsenal would ever win the league. Never, ever. I used to go down Tottenham as well, like, and watch them, like, with my granddad and all that, like, and I go, well, this team's never going to win. You know, they was like 6th or 7th in the league, you know what I mean? And then Tottenham got relegated, like, you know, and that was one of the reasons I thought, I'm not supporting that team, like, you know what I mean? They're relegated, you know what I mean? But, like, seriously, they've never ever going to win the league. And all of a sudden, George Graham come along and give me a.
Then it became 1-0 to the Arsenal, didn't it?
Yeah, I hope that we could win the league, like, and then we nearly blew that, like, in '89. It was a memorable time. But what I'm saying is, Arsenal Spurs have never been serial winners of the title. You know what I mean? Forget about from the 70s. Tottenham won it in '61. Arsenal won it in '71. They weren't like Tottenham and then Arsenal, Tottenham. You're talking one championship in 10 years.
6 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's not even a league title though. Like, I think most of us would be fairly content if we started picking up domestic trophies. The thing that annoys me is Tottenham cannot do it in a one-off game. Arsenal have come up against Man City in the semi-final. You beat them. You beat Chelsea in the final. You've also beaten Man City in the final. Whenever it comes into, and I'm not saying this is from Levy. I'm not saying that Levy's telling them to lose the game. But I feel like a certain amount of players we've had throughout the years just don't have the mentality to get over the line. I remember Alexis Sanchez, the 2 goals against Man City in the FA Cup when you won it. You had a player there that dragged you through it, like when Chile won the Copa America. He was at the heart of that. And when you beat Man City and Chelsea, Aubameyang dragged you through it. We get to that stage, and for one reason or another, something just doesn't go to plan. Like when we played in Manchester City, Jose gets sacked 7 days before, which was, okay, you could blame it on whatever decision you want. If we have Jose in that game.
Beautiful.
Henry, I don't think, like, people make this assumption that the reason we lost was because
I'm not saying the reason we lost, but in a one-off game, though.
Same season, Henry, we were first we went to Anfield on December the 12th, I think it was, and we could go on top of the table, and then we went from there and finished.
I'm not saying it's.
The whole season fell apart under Jose, and I just for me, I just think that's.
Yeah, but Sean, that was deluded.
That was a one-off game, though, in a final.
A one-off game. You want Jose over Ryan Mason
over any manager in the world in a one-off final. He's won 14 of 16 finals,
true.
And he's been the underdog. You know, like Roma going into it. Roma have never been in a European final. He's got them to 2 in the last 2 years. Like, for whatever reason,
I think we were like that. Yeah. So carry on.
Still had Man City in that final though, like, which is still a tough.
I'm not saying you would have won it. Mourinho probably would have lost it, but he would have had more of a chance than Ryan Mason. But listen, I want to move it because I do think that the reason I've titled this is because I always feel like Tottenham are kind of doing what Arsenal have done, like after us, if that makes sense. So
we're Arsenal from Wish.com, just say it.
Arsenal from Wish. Yeah, you've said that before, Henry. But for me,
Wow.
I look at it and I think they moved to the stadium. We've done that. It's all about top four. It was like that with Wenger. They've gone through the young manager and they're trying to get project managers. And now I think they've gone to the let's win now. And I think Daniel Levy's done everything. And people have said, where does he go now? You've done the project management with Poch. You've done the Conte. You've done the Mourinho. And Nuno obviously was a stopgap, as Henry said. But I'll ask you, Henry, is this Ange project process, whatever the hell you want to call it, is this going to be similar to Mikel Arteta now, do you think? Do you think he's going to be given time to just go, right, you've got 3-4 years, rip it up, start anew? Because he's already built a bit of a spine already within one window with like Maddison, Vicario, Bissouma, Van de Ven.
He's built a spine, hasn't he?
He has already built a spine.
The reason I say yes is we've given him a 4-year contract. When we gave Jose, Nuno and Conte, I think the longest out of the three was 3 years. So they've shown that they are willing to stick by and listen to Postecoglou. And with signings like James Maddison and Van de Ven, I mean, they've been, for me personally, and I'm probably going to get pelters for this, I think James Maddison's been signing of the summer, right? And I think he's been an absolute, 10 out of 10 for us. Yeah. We've got a Christian Eriksen replacement who can pick the ball up on the spin and play it straight in behind Son. For years, it was Kane dropping deep. We didn't have someone like that, and we were just riding our luck until Kane eventually is gone. But I am fully, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I am fully 100% in this project process because we've got a manager that's, an underdog. Wherever he's been, he's always been, you're not a proper manager. You've managed out in Japan and Australia. You finally get your job at Celtic, which is a massive club. You've gone there and smashed it to bits. And we're probably the hardest, not sounding like big-headed, but we're probably the hardest role he's had to manage because there's expectations now. If you got to get into that Champions League, you're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. We're not blessed with a talented squad like you guys have got a much bigger squad. Liverpool have got a much bigger squad. But like you both said, we've got one game a week, and he's built a spine. He's identified a play style he wants to implement and play, and he's not afraid to go out and play that with the big boys. For the first time in my lifetime, other than when we did your 3-2 at the Emirates, we should have come away with a win. And people say, but it's only one game. We go into your backyard when you are in a title race, and you can say that because you absolutely smashed the league to bits last year. We've gone away with more possession, more shots on target, whatever it is. We've beaten Liverpool. We've beaten United. We're sitting here 8 games in. Like I haven't felt this way about the club in a long, long time. And most of that is because of what Postecoglou's done. The problem is...
Do you think, though, Henry, and I'm meaning this I'm talking as a football fan, not an Arsenal fan. You've rode your luck a little bit in some of them games.
Yeah, but you have to. You have to, though.
You have to, but how sustainable is it? That's all I'm asking.
It's not sustainable at the moment because we've got, all these different goals. I mean, I think we've had more goal scorers, different goal scorers in the league than any other team. Now, that's great, but, you guys had lots of different goal scorers. Xhaka would get some, your centre-backs would get some, but you had 3 players that were consistently putting the ball in the back of the net, and that was Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard. This season, we've got Heung-min Son, and Maddison's obviously creating, but we don't have anyone else who can really go in and get 10, 15 a season. Obviously, you've got to ride your luck. There's been certain games where if Luton take that chance, if the Liverpool goal wasn't given as offside, but every team has that. I mean, you guys, first game of 10 games last year, you had a few teams miss sitters.
We've beaten Manchester City and Manchester United by deflected goals, Henry. I'm not, luck is part of it.
We haven't even played amazingly well yet, and we've had a bit of luck as well. But I just wonder how sustainable it is.
I don't think it's sustainable. I think we can get through majority of this season playing the way we are because we don't have a huge amount of games. We could hypothetically, if we lost the FA Cup, we could do a 40-game season where you boys are in 4 competitions. You need to have players that are going to provide 20, 30 goals between them, where we could get away with playing, one game a week and 1 week Romero scoring, the next week Son. For the future, though, we do need 2 or 3 players in that team that's scoring 10 or 15 a season. And I think looking at the players we've got right now, taking out the January transfer window, I think the only players that you could say would get double digits and you could bank on it are Son and Maddison. You might Kulu last year only had a couple of goals. Richarlison, half the time he can't hit a barn door. Perisic is out injured. Solomon's out injured. We don't have that, the vocal point. And people are saying, I've seen rival fans saying, but you've only played Luton and you've only played, Bournemouth and Burnley, but we've still played 3 of the top 6. Like, this isn't luck what Postecoglou's doing, because
No, I agree with that.
I feel like we are being, I'm not saying we're going to win a league title, but I feel like we are being disrespected a lot in some of the results we've got. Like, we deserve to beat Man United. We deserve to get a point in the Emirates. Okay, you could say Liverpool, they didn't deserve to have players sent off, but we were by far the better team on the day. So, look.
Spurs' fault, Henry. Forget about the offside. It's not Spurs' fault that Liverpool gone down to 10 men.
Oh, absolutely. I
thought Liverpool were worthy of probably being in front at that stage, but they didn't. They shot themselves in the foot. Whether it's a sending off or not, don't matter. Sent off down to 10 men, and what you've got to do then as a team is get through it, and you get through it, and how you get through it. Does it really matter? I'm not buying into all that. At the end of the day, you can only beat what's in front of you. Whether you beat them, if 4-0 or 1-0, it don't matter as long as you beat them. Arsenal last season had fantastic performances, but we rode our luck at Aston Villa. Damn, we rode our luck at Bournemouth at home. We rode our luck on a couple of occasions with last-minute winners. That is what happens in football. It's what it
builds confidence, because you think,
of course,
someone's going to get the winner for us.
That last-minute winner for you against Liverpool will take you on to the next game. Maybe if you didn't get that last-minute winner, the Luton game wouldn't have given that energy to go for that game. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, Arsenal.
I think we spoke about this on last Thursday's show. The Sheffield United, the 2 goals.
Yes, we did.
Through. That, for me, was the reason why we went into Arsenal. Yeah. If we'd beaten them 4-0 and the game was over at half-time, I think that we might have gone in a little bit too cocksure into the Arsenal game, and a different outcome would have happened. But I don't subscribe to this argument that scoring a late last-minute winner is luck. Like, there's as many minutes in the game as there's minutes in the game, and a team that scores late, to teams that are respected, if Manchester City go and get, like Arsenal got the last-minute winner against Manchester City, or sort of the late goal, that wasn't ever spoken about as anything other than, what good teams do. When good teams do it,
it's lucky, yeah.
Well, I know that it was a deflection and stuff, so maybe there was a little bit of that argument. But
brilliant.
No, yeah, but you're right though. You're right.
Generally speaking, when good teams win late, they are acknowledged and they get the accolades for having that mentality. That's what title-winning teams do. When Tottenham do it, some reason it's parked into the fortune bucket rather than the solid mentality bucket, and it irritates me a little bit.
I think, and I get that, and to be honest, we had this all the last season when we were at 15 games in. Oh, it'll go wrong. They've been lucky. It's just
played no one yet.
Arsenal won't be in it. Ain't played anyone yet. 15 games in. Ain't played anyone.
Can't beat City, so everyone can just shut up, can't they? You know what I mean?
Well, this is it. I mean, this season will come on to Arsenal next, but I want to ask all 3 of you actually, because for me, if Tottenham are in this position 16 games in, we can start talking about a title race. For me, I think 8 games, I've seen you up the top 8 games before, and I've seen it crumble. I've seen us at the top 8 games before, and I've seen it crumble. Does anyone actually, I open this to the panel, does anyone genuinely think that you can do the unthinkable this season? Not win it, but actually go right the way to sort of, let's say, March, April, May time and actually be in with a shout?
Listen, I'll go first, because I'll be the one that will be clapped as this deluded you're tapped, whatever. The only thing I will say is, when you look at your 11 you had last year, and you look at your bench, and you look at our 11 and our bench, they're in similar positions. The thing is, the difference will be is you work very, very consistent on a game after game after game. If we can keep this consistency up, when you look at bringing in the replacement for Saliba, you didn't have it. When you look at bringing in the replacement for Saka and Martinelli and Odegaard, you didn't have it. Exactly the same position as we are in now. You've gone out and you've brought in the likes of Timber, you brought in Rice, you brought in Trossard in January. Right now, I don't think we are in a title race, but I don't see the difference. Like everyone's saying, oh, but Arsenal had a better team. I don't think your 11 last year is like leap years ahead of ours. I think it's better, but it's not like night and day. Like when you look at the players we've got before me, like last year, Odegaard compared to Maddison this year, they're not night and day. They're two very good players. I just think when injuries do come, that's when we will fall down the table. I don't think we've got a big enough squad, but I just don't see the differences between last year and this year compared to both our teams. If you look at this year, you've got the depth. You've got a leader on the pitch like Rice. You've got good backups. But no, we're not in a title race.
Well, listen, I think no one's in a title race at the moment. It's not.
No, I agree with that.
That's the thing. You've got to put yourself in a position to be in a title race, and that's a different thing. And what Tottenham are doing at the moment is putting themselves in a position to do it, and that's why I think that that you can't disrespect Spurs. I don't think you can at this moment in time disrespect or brush aside at an Aston Villa or a Newcastle or anybody like this at the moment. I think Tottenham be there to the end. I think that not at the end. I think City, I think will still power through because it's City, and we all know what they can do. I think that they've got a good chance of being in the title race. If I agree with what Henry's actually saying. If Arsenal can do it like they did last season, that gives everybody a chance to say, well, hold on, they've done it without a big squad and whatever, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like last season, there was other teams up there last season. Manchester United, Newcastle were up there at one stage last season. Teams start to fall away. Now, if Spurs are one of them or not, that's what happens. You have to keep pace and have to keep going against Manchester City. It's not easy. I can tell you that now, from the experience of it last season. So, but there will be, I obviously at the end of the day, there will be runners and riders. It's like the Grand National, isn't it? And there's big hurdles you've got to get over, i.e. Manchester City away and everything like that. As I've said, I don't think that if Spurs have got a very, very good record against Man City, but if they play the way they have done against Manchester City this season, they come unstuck. The way they've played against them in the few years before is like their kryptonite, isn't it? Of Man City, hitting them on the break, and they done it in the Champions League. It was incredible. I thought at one side Spurs were probably one of the best counter-attacking teams in Europe because they did counter-attack and finished very, very well with the chances that they've done. I don't think if you're going against Manchester City like that, you'll get beat. Even Arsenal this weekend had to be a little bit more pragmatic against them. So, but listen, Spurs have got the capabilities of changing their tactics. I'm pretty sure. I think that if you say to that, and it's a bit of a disrespect to him as well. He can only play one way. I don't think that he can. I think Mikel showed that over the last sort of 6 months to a year that he can change his team and everything like that. Spurs will have to do that against City, and I think it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting, but I'm not writing Spurs off. Unfortunately, I'd love to, but I'm not.
Well, let's talk about the situation with the managers quick before we just close on Arsenal. Is it fair to say that Postecoglou is a better manager than Arteta just because he's actually proven that he can win stuff and he's had a bit longer in the game with some other with some other teams? Implemented a playing style with all of them, or is Arteta the better of the two managers? And I know it's not really about we've got the better manager than you, but I just genuinely am interested to see where you boys are at. Sean, I'll come to you on that question.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you framed that question, mate, because I was expecting you to say, is Postecoglou as good as Arteta? And my initial answer was probably going to be why are we framing it that way? I think that I don't know on what relevant metric you can make the assertion that Arteta is better than Postecoglou in terms of accolades, in terms of trophies. Arteta's in his first gig, and he got an FA Cup in the first 6 months before his project kind of was sort of panned out, and then since then, and look, I know this is an Arsenal channel, so I hope that this goes down with the
No, it's not.
Kind of-
It's not an Arsenal channel, so it's
Oh,
football
fair
channel.
enough.
So you're fine. You
A
say you
football
want.
channel, right? Okay, fair enough. So look, I personally don't understand why Arteta has the PR that he is this monster manager. I don't understand it. Like, I think he's got better PR than Gemma Collins. Like, I feel like he gets this narrative that he's some superstar
That's
tactician.
quality.
I honestly don't get it. Like, what has he done? He won an FA Cup in the first 6 months. I know he's off the protege of Pep Guardiola, but he won the FA Cup before his system got a chance to be implemented, and ever since then, you finished eighth, fifth, and second. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, he gave away a Champions League finish season before last, and he gave away a title challenge last season. I think he makes some weird tactical decisions playing Partey. Is it right back he's been playing him? I think he's made some weird transfer decisions of late, paying 70 million or 65 million for players like Kai Havertz. I feel like he tries to overthink things and wants to come across like this, I don't know, like this genius of tactical brilliance that he's always one step ahead of everybody else. I haven't seen it materialize on the pitch in a way that has proven to add anything other than momentum without the substance. It's a lot of foreplay, but none of the intercourse, if that makes sense. None of the finish. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't really get why he is thought of as this masterclass of tactics. And when it comes to Postecoglou, look, I mean, he's won things wherever he's been. Maybe he hasn't done it yet at the highest level, but where he's done it on 3 continents. He's won in Japan. He's won in Celtic. He's got more trophies. He's got domestic doubles, domestic trebles. He's taken Australia to the World Cup, which wasn't expected. He won the Asia Cup with Australia, which definitely wasn't expected. Everything that's been asked of Postecoglou, he's done. He's done it in a brilliant fashion, playing brilliant football. He's an incredibly likable guy. I don't think you can necessarily extend the same personality compliments to Arteta. I think a lot of non-Arsenal fans look at Arteta and find him like dislikable. I think that's the opposite between him and Postecoglou. I'm not sure. I'll be honest. Like, I'm just not sure what it is that Arteta has done to warrant this notion that he's some top level manager yet, other than he comes out of the Pep Guardiola stable and he's taken Arsenal to their best finish since Arsene Wenger, but ultimately he's been unsuccessful. I'm sorry, I don't get it.
I don't want you to say sorry, because it's refreshing to hear what I've been saying as an Arsenal fan from you. And whenever I get asked this, I get told I'm toxic and negative, and it's all hate, and you just hate and got an agenda against Arteta. It's just refreshing to hear that from other fans, because for me there's massive pressure, and I'm with Bearded Gooner. Henry, I'll put this to you. Arteta will really be measured after this season. He has his players now. It's down to him to manage them and manage the game and win a trophy or 3, which would be nice. I think he's got to win something. Lee was saying earlier, Dan's in the camp of he's got to win something or he gets sacked. Now, there's context between that. I'm not saying sack Arteta if we don't win a Champions League or a treble or a double. But I do think that if we're going out to teams like we have done in the last few years, Sporting Lisbon's, Olympiacos's, Villarreal's, Brighton's, Leicester's, Forest's, Southampton's, I can't be sitting there and throwing away competitions against teams like that. If we're going to get to a Champions League final and get beaten by Real Madrid, if we're going to take Man City to the wire, become second, there's context, right? We haven't won something, but we're very, very bloody close. And there were unbelievable sides that we lost to. So there's context for it. But I do think Sean's right. Postecoglou's actually gone and proven that he can get a team across the line. And we're still yet to do that. So I get where Sean is coming from, Henry.
Yeah, the thing I say on Arteta is I think he's a fantastic coach. The football you play, the style, the way you win games, I think he is a top coach. It's just the in-game management decisions at times in certain games, like the treatment. Who is it that's better? Is it Smith Rowe that's better? I don't know whether he's fit or not. Didn't he bring him on in like the 95th minute of 98 against us? Like little things like that, if I was a fan, would irritate me. Now, yes, You went all the way with Manchester City, which is a remarkable achievement because only Jurgen Klopp's done that, and he's probably top 3 managers in the world. You'd probably say him, Ancelotti, and Guardiola. Yeah, he's done a really good job at Arsenal in terms of the football you're playing. Sean does have a point, when it comes to getting over the line. That FA Cup, I'm fairly sure, and I don't want to say his name again, but I'm fairly sure a lot of that was Unai Emery's squad. He come and inherited it. You won an FA Cup, you finished 8th. I think that's your lowest finish in Premier League history. You then finished 8th again. You then got in a top 4 race, and all you had to do was get a point against us, and we, annihilated you, to be honest. 3-0, Holding gets sent off. You then get in a title race. So you are slowly progressing because you can look at your table finishes. But when it comes down to that crunch moments, I don't know, something never really goes to plan for Arteta. I don't really think it's fair to compare them in terms of Premier League because Postecoglou's been here 5 minutes and Arteta has his first gig. But when you look throughout their career,
it's all relative, though, isn't it? Like Henry, taking Brisbane Roar might not mean anything, but taking them from where they were when he took over, which was 10th out of 12, and making them win the title, doing the same with the Japanese team, doing the same,
getting Australia to the World
with
Cup
relatively weaker players than the kingpins of whatever league that's in. It's all relative, right? I think that
it's just respect that
from the squeeze the way he's done demonstrates a skill set that I don't think that Arteta has shown just yet.
The thing I'll say on it is I think that looking at, I've spoken to quite a few Celtic fans and Australian fans, and everyone you speak to seems to absolutely adore Ange. And the one thing I'll say in the short time I've seen him is his man management 1-to-1. I think is very good, but it's the in-game things. Like Conte wouldn't have taken Kane or Son off to save his life. He's taken off Son and Maddison both times, and it's worked. He's not afraid to make the big calls, and when he's made the big calls, it's worked. Some big calls, I think the one that really stands out to me, and it's a couple of seasons back, is when you played United. Ten Hag brought on Fred to nullify Odegaard, and Arteta's going, I don't really know what to do here. It was almost like what would Pep do? He's learned from it, though, and you've got more experience, and you have beaten United since. You've beaten City now. I just think if you don't win a major honour this season, you've got to be asking questions. You're nearly 700 million in. And yes, people will say, but Chelsea spent $1 billion. Fair enough. But you spent a lot of money now, and you've proven you can compete with City. You've just beaten City. You've beaten City in the Charity Shield. You've got to go and win something this year. You have to. Like Lee said, Liverpool will be looking to win something. Man United will be looking to win something. I think right now on paper, you're stronger than both of them. I think the only team in competitions you've really got to worry about, like the FA Cup and League Cup, is Man City. I think you're stronger than the other 9 teams in the league.
And Man City are out of one of them, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no reason why you can't go and win the League Cup.
Now, I agree with that. And listen, Lee, I'll end with yourself because rightly so, the last few years I've had concerns, and you've listened to my concerns for that long. No one's learned anything different from me in that respect. But I think where we have perhaps done Mikel Arteta a disservice in this last few minutes in conversation is what he's had to do off the pitch, because that has been outstanding. Some of the stuff that he's done there outside of the tactics and the in-game management and stuff like that has been really impressive. And I think the removing of the culture, Henry was talking about Postecoglou looking at doing that. I think in the last few years, taking a squad that was toxic and removing it and making it your own, bringing the fan base on side, the atmosphere of the Emirates is what it has never been like that since we moved there. So I think he deserves credit for a hell of a lot of that. And there's also, winning the league in Scotland and trying to win the league at Arsenal in England. They're two very different things. So I do think we're doing a bit of disservice to what Mikel Arteta has done in terms of some of the positives. I do still, though, as you know, have concerns that he could be the nearly there guy, like a Brendan Rodgers, and we might need a Jurgen Klopp to come in and take us over the line. That's what I want to see this season is, no, I'm not the Brendan Rodgers. I'm a Klopp, or I can be a Klopp, and that's why I'm doing that at the end of the year.
Right, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there. What was Postecoglou? I'm going to call him Ange, can't say his second name. What was he doing? What was his first job?
Brisbane Roar.
Really?
Australian, yeah.
How did he get on?
Yeah, he won everything.
Who cares? And what are you doing for? Who cares? What did he do at Celtic? Done well at Celtic. You know what I mean? Like, but his first 2, 3, 4 years, he was doing jobs that,
20 years. He's been there for 20 years.
20 years. So he's doing all those jobs. So he's doing all that stuff, learning all his trade. Where Arteta has had to do it at a massive club. Now that is, I don't think the right thing to go. I think that, realistically, Arteta should have been learning on the job like Ange done, doing it properly, learning from your mistakes, getting wherever he was in Australia, making mistakes where no one cares. A little bit like Saliba when he's on loan for the last couple of years, probably making loads of mistakes and all that, learning his trade. He's had to learn his trade for 2 years at Arsenal, at least 2 years at Arsenal, making on the job. I don't think that's right, Dan. I don't think that's right, guys. I don't think that he should have been doing that, but that's the job that he's in. So the 2 years that he's had to learn and everything like that. Probably that's why he's got his 8 finishes and all that, because basically he's made mistakes along the way. Also, when he's had to do that, as you said, Dan, he's had to get rid of a squad. And let's face it, a squad of players weren't worth nothing. I remember a few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, right, we'll sell a player to buy a player. Like, which is what managers like Ange have done in the past and learned how to do a smaller club to get, players in and make them better and things like that.
The only thing I'll say on that, Lee, is with Emery, you finished 5th and you got to a Europa League final. When Arteta has come up to 2 Europa League games against Olympiacos and against Sporting Lisbon, you've not got over the line twice.
Yeah, but we've beaten Manchester City. We've beaten.
Okay,
Liverpool.
but would you rather beat Man City or win the Europa League?
Well, no, I'd rather beat Manchester City and Tottenham home and away and win the league. That's my thing. Like, listen, the Europa League last season, none of us cared about it. I know that's the sounding thing. Like, we played the game against Olympiacos. Probably should have beat them, to be honest. But I'm fuming when I see Saliba on the pitch and players like that. Like, I'm not whether that's right, whether that's wrong, because I wanted us to concentrate on the league. I get that he's made mistakes and things like that, but at the end of the day, when when people go about Emery was 5th in the league, right? Needing to beat Crystal Palace at home, and he played a complete weakened side, and we end up losing to Crystal Palace and not getting top 4. At the end of the day,
he did have one eye on the Europa League final, though.
Well, maybe he did, but like at the end of it, he fucked up. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the same thing with? I think we spoke about this last week again with regards Lons. Like, sometimes the manager is damned whether he does or doesn't. With Saka after the Lens game,
it's just,
there was only one outcome where he comes out like a hero, and it's where you rest Saka and you win the game. But you play Saka and you lose the game, and it's the worst scenario possible.
That is my point, and I get you. You make mistakes along the way. Now, should you be making those mistakes at Arsenal Football Club? No, you shouldn't be. When you come to Arsenal Football Club,
you're ready.
Should be like that, ready. But he wasn't. That was the route that they went down, and you have to accept that. Now, I go back to Liverpool a few years ago. They were throwing away FA Cups to teams in division lower than them and everything like that. Why? Because they was building for what was come. You don't throw away cups now. He doesn't throw away anything now, like, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a learning curve, and that's why I'll give him a little bit of a gap there. And look, listen, someone like Ange, do I think Ange is a better manager? I don't know if he's a better manager, but do you want him? Is he more experienced? Damn right he is. Because he's got that thing where he's come into that side, he's had like whatever he's done and all that. He's got lots of things on his CV, and he's got, is it like you just said, 20 years of managing? You know what I mean? Like 20 years of managing.
Something crazy, yeah.
Mikel Arteta's got 4. So if you're asking me who's a better manager and whatever, like, I don't know. But if you're telling me what's got the experience and what key thing that you have, you've got this. Why is Ange coming to Tottenham and doing a good job? So I'll tell you why, because he's got all the background of what he's done in his previous jobs, taking all of that in. The Celtic one. Now, people turn around, I've seen it in the chat about Celtic, right? It's easy to win at Celtic and all that, right? Okay. Brendan Rodgers won at Celtic all the time. It's easy to win at that, right? Tell me if it's easy, right? When you know that every game you go to, the opposition is up for it 110%. And every time you've got to get your team knowing that if you drop off, they could beat you. You have to get that team mentally right, week in, week out, to take on opposition when you think, oh, we've got Falkirk today.
100%. Winning a game for him at Celtic is well done for doing your job. Losing a game, the question marks are always there. There's no benefit.
Can you say that about Guardiola? Isn't Guardiola got that now where everyone's up for playing City?
Of course he has, and that's something like goes along those lines. That's what everybody has it when you play Man United under Alex Ferguson. That's why he was like he was. He used to change things and everything like that. So, but these guys you're talking about, Ferguson, Wenger, Arsene Wenger come to Arsenal with experience behind him. He was ready for that job. I don't think Arteta was, guys. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, he's bloody lucky to get the job. But he's got it, and that's how it goes from there. Listen, you can go on about lots of things. Let's talk about Pep quiet against Arsenal the other day. Where's Grealish? Why isn't he on the pitch?
100%.
Tottenham, I think, if they don't take Song and Maddison off, now I don't know if they're injured or not. I think Spurs might have gone on and won that game. Mm-hmm. So did he make a mistake by bringing them two off there? Listen, things like that happen in games. Mikel Arteta, by the way, has got a record as the first manager to make 4 substitutions and all contributing a goal. You know what I mean? Is that luck or is that?
Let me ask you for the future, like in the short-term future, because I know, not that I know your club is obviously anywhere near as well as you guys do, but I do know that there's an element of your fan base, just like there's an element of our fan base that is very willing and happy to jump onto our owners' back the second something goes wrong. There is an element, if I'm wrong, unless I'm wrong, correct me, but there's an element of your fan base that was Arteta out for the last 2 years until last season. And then most of those guys kind of had to shut up a little bit because you outperformed last season. If this season doesn't work out,
I'll talk about myself. I was Arteta out first not because of Mikel Arteta, never ever because of Mikel Arteta, because I didn't think he was he should have had the job in the first place. That was my reason.
Right.
And when we got fifth in the league and we lost to Spurs, I then, Dan had been the one. So I backed him all that season. And I felt that I could see things going. But there was a couple of seasons before that, Sean, when I was going to games, and I know that you've had the same thing as Spurs fans, where it was a chore. I know for a fact that I've got Spurs fans that's trying to sell their tickets to go when they're playing Bournemouth away at home last season and things like that. Because I sat there at times thinking, this is a chore to go to games.
Yeah, like what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Every single game that I go to now at Arsenal, last season and this season, it's not a chore. So
if Arsenal, if the season pattern, I'm not saying if it finishes with you finishing 4th or 5th or 6th, but if for whatever happens, if you start to fall away from the title race, if you lose a scrappy game against Crystal Palace, you got Crystal Palace coming up, not an easy game. You got West Ham, I think, coming up soon as well. If you don't pick up points there, and there starts to be 8-9 points away from whoever's top of the table, probably Man City or whatever. Like, do you think that Arteta, maybe not you, Lee, but there is an element of your fan base that is waiting probably for the Arteta out bell to start ringing again?
Of course.
What's it going to take? What's it going to take for that bell to be rung so loudly that Arteta gets relieved of his duties?
Spurs coming above us. That's a bell that I don't want ringing, because that shouldn't happen this season. After the season that you've had last season and the money that we spent this season, that shouldn't happen. But Liverpool or Manchester United, dare I say it, getting above us and whatever, I don't think that should happen this season.
So if the season finishes with 0 trophies and Tottenham finishing above you, does the Arteta out bandwagon start?
100%. 100%. Yeah, and I think it would be justifiable. I think it would be justifiable to raise concerns about where we're going. Like Henry said, almost £700 million spent, another trophy this season. Where do we go here?
Just ask you a question, right? This is a fair question, right? I'll change that around. Let's forget about Arteta at the moment. If Pep's in charge of Arsenal, do they win the league?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. If Klopp's in charge of Arsenal, do they win the league?
Yes.
Probably. I think so, yeah.
So long away the line, so somewhere along the line, the manager's got to be accountable. He's got to be accountable for it sometimes. And what I hear from Arsenal fans a lot of the time is when something goes wrong, they blame the centre forward for missing chances, like Eddie missing chances, or they blame the centre half, or they blame the goalkeeper, or they blame this and they blame that. Who's picking them? So somewhere along the line, he will have to be accountable at some stage. We've had people calling us out, going, "Oh look, we've won 10 games on the spin. Like, oh look, you know what I mean? Like, you should be this and that. Like, oh, if you calling out, you're feeling that. Soon as if things don't go well, they go in hiding." And things
well,
like
Lee, it's like, if you can't see what Arteta's doing, mate, you can F off down the lane.
He's had that one night, you know what I mean? Like, you should be a Spurs supporter, you and
all the time, man.
At some stage, a little bit like Pochettino at Tottenham, if you be really honest about it, he was getting you to a certain thing, and I remember Spurs fans going, "We never sacked Poch, we never want him out like we did Wenger." He was cut off at the edge straight away, like, and probably premature.
Yeah, but he built his own casket. I remember going into the Champions League final in the pre-match press conference. He was asked around his future before the Liverpool game, and he was like, "Well, if we win this, I don't know what else I can do at this club." He was distancing himself, or just kind of like arrogantly kind of positioning himself as being above Tottenham. What else can he possibly do at Tottenham? And then saying the things about the furniture in the state, like the house, the furniture. He was making comments that
maybe Mikel would do that, Sean. I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. There's going to be a time. There's going to be a time when you go yay or nay. It's not here yet, but
is it at the end of this? Is it if there's failure or like subjective failure? If you guys perceive this season to be a disappointment, does the project run out of juice?
Let me answer that. Let me answer that because I ain't looking at Mikel Arteta. I'm looking at the people who employ him. Because if we get into a stage this season, I'm not going to start pointing fingers at Mikel, because Mikel's done yet again what he's proven to do the last couple, which is fail at the last hurdle. So what are you going to do about it, Mr. Kroenke? And if we're going to give him another 250 million, I'll be disappointed, because for me, I want to win now. I don't want to win in another 5 years' time. I want to win right now. So for me, if he is a Brendan Rodgers and we need a Jurgen Klopp or I always use that example because that's what happened at Liverpool to get us over the line, and we have to go and get a Carlo Ancelotti or a Diego Simeone, then do it, because that means we can go and win something now, not wait another 5 years. He will come good. It's just not quite ready yet. I've already waited 20 years.
Even at the sacrifice, Dan, of playing attractive football. You get a Simeone in or a Conte in or one of those guys.
Let me ask you something,
would you actually sacrifice? You go back to George Graham ball.
Mate, I grew up on George Graham, Sean. So yes, I won. I watched us winning. Everybody wants to play beautiful football and win, right? That's the actual dream. Sometimes you can't do that. Diego Simeone would come at Arsenal, we'd win. Wouldn't be pretty.
Oh, you'd stink it out every week and win the league.
And that's the end bit. The end bit is win the league, and that is what I want.
But if you hire someone like him, they have to win the league, because under Conte, I'll be honest, Lee mentioned it earlier, turning up to Tottenham and going, "What are we doing here?" I hated watching Tottenham play under Conte. I hated it under Jose Mourinho. I'm someone who wants to. I think of like lifting a trophy as a 5-minute exercise at the end of a season, but I look at experiencing Tottenham as a distraction from my life, the stresses of my life, twice a week or once a week. I want to enjoy it. And under Conte, under Mourinho, under Nuno, all that nonsense ever since Pochettino, it was a chore to watch Tottenham play, and ultimately it was unsuccessful anyway. So I'd rather watch like entertaining football that allowed me to dream for 6 months of the season, even if it ended up being a disappointment, than watching like boring, horrendous football and hoping.
If I gave you, John, 20 years, if I gave you 20 years of Pochettino football and it won you nothing, but I give you 20 years of Simeone and you bring back 7 trophies, are you taking the 20 years of Poch football?
No. Yeah, probably.
No. Wow.
Let me ask you something.
I'm unique in that regard, mate. But when I watch Tottenham, I want to enjoy the 90 minutes. twice a week.
You can enjoy certain moments of a season.
Yeah, but you can enjoy 7 trophies, Sean.
Yeah, but you can't guarantee me.
Is that 7 league titles or just 7?
You can't guarantee that.
7 trophies. The FA Cups,
you can't
Champions League.
Under Conte, under Mourinho, we were we were successful for periods. We got to certain areas, but we ultimately came up short.
To go for it. 7 trophies. That's more than we've won in the last 35 years.
If you're guaranteeing me 7 trophies, then I'll take
guaranteeing you 7 trophies.
If you're guaranteeing it to me, then yes.
That's what I'm guaranteeing you. I'm guaranteeing you beautiful
Okay.
football for 20 years under Poch, but you don't win nothing. Or I'm guaranteeing you
1-0 away.
1-0s or 2-1s, but I'm giving you 7 trophies in that 20-year period. Surely you're taking the 7 trophies.
If you're guaranteeing it to me, but you obviously that's you can't guarantee it. When I've seen Tottenham managers coming in playing terrible football in the hope that it's going to get you over the line, and I know that it doesn't, then I'd rather tolerate. Like for me, Harry Redknapp was the greatest manager in my I grew up. 94 was my first season. Jerry Francis. Ever since then, the 3 managers that I remember that I really enjoyed Tottenham were Martin Jol, Harry Redknapp, and Pochettino. And we didn't win anything. But no one talks about George Graham ball when we won a trophy, and no one talks about Juan de Ramos ball when we won a trophy. So for me, like enjoying the 90 minutes on a Saturday and the 90 minutes on a Wednesday is more important than this pipe dream of making.
You know what? You're backed up there, man. You're backed up there because you're right. No one talks about Ramos or Graham. You're backed up why you feel that way, brother. And that's all we ask, man. Absolutely. Listen, we do have to wrap up, but I just want to ask very quickly. I'll open this to the panel to close on this. Does anyone see something different in Arsenal this year, or is this just going to be a bit better, maybe? But nah, it's still City's. What are we thinking?
Still City's.
Well, I'll go first. I think Arsenal got a great chance. I'll tell you why I think that. Not because Arsenal have improved. I think City are not quite at it. I think that they've lost a couple of their really top players. I also think that injuries are starting to take their toll on a certain De Bruyne. If he comes back and hits the ground running, but over the last couple of years, he's come back and broke down a few times. The latch is open, but it could be locked. And I'm not saying it'd be Arsenal. I'm saying that Liverpool could be another challenger. But I don't think City are as quite as at it. Like, this is a City team that hardly last season I didn't see them losing a game for so long. They've lost 3 out of 4 of their last. I haven't seen that from City for a very long while.
Listen, Manchester City for me, but I will say this: it'll be closer than what people are saying. I really think that. I don't think City will win this by 20 points or 15 points.
No,
LB's on a channel, I think we'll walk this league this year. Now all of a sudden he's like, oh, maybe we ain't going to. And I agree with you. I think Liverpool will be up there as well because they can score goals, but defensively, not so resolute. I think what Arsenal have done is we haven't actually really played that well yet. We find ourselves near the top of the table. So when we now go back into the Chelsea game after the international break with a trio of Partey, Rice and Ødegaard and a front three we ain't really going to play yet in Saka, Martinelli and Jesus, with a back 5 that, let's be real, has been pretty solid. I think we've got a good chance of going on a nice little run. So I hope we can do that. Let's leave it with you, Sean and Henry. What's your thoughts on this one with Arsenal?
Go on, mate.
Yeah, I stick by what I said last time. I think that the title race isn't even a thing until January, February. I think right now everyone's jockeying for position. It's like, I don't know, if you watch golf, you can't win a major on the Thursday or the Friday. You have to be in and about it and see what happens on a Sunday. And the same with if you're in a Grand Prix, you've got to qualify in pole position and hope that even if you've got a slower car, you can still do what you're doing. I think that this season, I still currently think that Manchester City have just got too much. Yeah. And I think that by the end, but when it comes to the crunch time, I think they'll pull away. But I've got to be honest, watching you lot against City on last weekend, it surprised me how poor Manchester City were. And yeah, I think that I agree with you, Dan. I think that it's going to be tighter this year than it has been in previous years. But I still think Manchester City have got too much.
Fair play, man. Henry?
I've actually been quite impressed with Arsenal in terms of they haven't played like 10 out of 10 games yet, but they're picking up points. And that's the side of a good team that haven't got to be at their best to win games. Man City, I think they are in a bit of a problem. To have less goal scoring chances created than Everton, like that for me is a big concern. If they've got more expected goals or chances created than Manchester City, there's problems there, mate. You know, Haaland got less service than Tesco Mobile against you lot. He didn't have a shot at goal. He didn't have a shot at goal. And this is the people tell me better than Harry Kane, the best striker in the world. Well, I didn't see it because he's not getting the ball. You lot, you know, that game, you cancelled each other out. There was 5 or 6 centre-backs on the pitch. You both teams.
No one wanted to lose that game.
Yeah, I thought both teams played for a draw. Arsenal, you know, that they kept going and going and going. Why not off a deflection? That's the sign of a good team that they haven't played. I didn't think they were that great against us. I thought the United game was a bit dead. If the Forest game was 10 minutes longer, they might have got something. But that's the sign of a good team. Fergie used to do this, where they used to turn up, have a 6 or 7 out of 10 game, and somehow win 3-0. That eventually things will start going into, you know, to transition. You'll start getting really good performances. But I think that where this league will be won is on that January transfer window. If Man City go out and buy 2 creative players, you know, because we know that I think they will strengthen, then it could be curtains. If you go out and get Ivan Toney, if you put Ivan Toney in the Arsenal team, I think you win the league.
Still a question mark about him, mate. He hasn't kicked the ball for 7 months.
Doesn't matter though. He's still training. He's still got one-to-one coaching. He's mustard. Like I don't. He's absolute mustard.
I think Arsenal fans could look elsewhere. There's a few other number 9s that are emerging that
Even
won't
that guy
cost
at
as much
Stuttgart,
money.
I've just done a video on. 14 goals in 7 games.
Garassi from Stuttgart.
From Feyenoord.
But you know what, mate? That guy's been like an also ran for 6 years, coming out of Stade Rennais. Like I don't know about him. Like I always question why people gas about players that are 26, 27 years old and that are suddenly emerging because they've had a bit of a hot streak. But there's a lot of
Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy didn't do anything till he was like 27. He was playing up like
I'd have Ivan Toney tomorrow. I think he'd be quality for Arsenal. All-round centre-forward. I understand what you're saying, Sean. He ain't the only one, that's for sure. But I think the one realistically at the moment that's proven in the Premier League is him. I don't see another centre-half.
Ollie Watkins. Would you take Ollie Watkins?
I'd take Toney over Watkins because I think he can do a lot more than Watkins in terms of an all-round striker. I like Watkins. I think they're different players, but I think Toney is better. He's the one I'd have. I'm a big fan, man. Big fan. And I think he can take us to the next level. Listen, Eddie Nketiah, come on. Like, he tries hard. He gives 110. But I'm having Ivan Toney over Eddie Nketiah. And, you know, Pedro Neto's the other one I want as well. Because if he ain't going to trust some of the other lads behind Saka, then we need someone who's going to be less of a drop-off. And I think he's been sensational. I know he has injury problems, but he's been quality for Wolves, man. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Boys, been a pleasure, man. Really enjoyed that. That went so quickly as well. Big up the chat as well. Chat was absolutely lit. Interactions, as always. Good to see Arsenal and Spurs fans in the chat as well, which is always the beauty, I suppose, of running this channel. Judges, mate, pleasure as always, bro. Enjoyed that one?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Always good to talk to the 2 guys downstairs. You know what I mean? Like,
we're upstairs because we're top of the league, mate.
Actually, next week we should be upstairs. To be honest.
Next week, yeah, we'll do that until what we do is from now on, who's ever above each other, we're
yeah, let's do that. That's been funny, actually. Let's do that. Henry, man, big up, man. How can people follow you, bro?
Yeah, it's just Henry Wright TV on practically all socials. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good show as always. Actually, 2 level-headed, I'll say, gooners, because most of the fan base is completely flipping out with the fairies, as my mum would say. But yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Much appreciated.
Nah, you're always welcome, bro. Likewise, Sean. How can people follow you, bruv?
Yeah, same, mate. Spurs Talk Show at Spurs Talk Show on all the socials. Really appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it's nice to be able to have a grown-up conversation about football rather than it getting stuck into banter too much. So I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Nah, big up, man. Absolutely. Make sure you go follow Lee Judges as well. Lee Judges TV will be back on there very soon. If you do want to come and follow myself, it's at DanArsenal87. Make sure you like and subscribe as well, people. The next target is 13K. So thank you all so much for getting us to 12. And we'll be out of here. Make sure you go follow Bread and Honey Bets. It's in the description. If you fancy a bet over the international period, we'll see you next time. Take it easy. Laters. We're out of here.